Bismillah ar-Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Our current session focuses on language in society. I hope and expect that you already understand the relationship between language and society. However, I expect that by the end of this session, you would have further understanding of the relationship of the two, particularly from the perspective of sociolinguistics. Well, my dear students, language and social setup have a reciprocal relationship. The two terms social or society and language, they are in a binary relationship. They interconnect with each other on a two-way relationship. Language shapes social interactions, whereas social interactions, conversations, and use of language shapes the society. As far as anthropological linguistics is concerned, it deals with language in a specific culture and how it is affected. When it comes to sociolinguistics, it is the study of the connection between language and society and the way people use language in different social contexts and in different social situations. In fact, my dear students, language is a social, cultural, and geographical phenomenon. The social aspects, the cultural values, norms, and beliefs, and the geographical setting, the area where it is used, all these combined together has an impact on the language choices that the speakers make. What does it mean? It means if you change any of these factors, if you modify any of these factors, the language would be affected by this, and it would also be remodified and reshaped according to the changes in any of these factors. The question arises, how does society affect language? Actually, it is in the society that man acquires language, and here I'm using the word man as a generic term, which means all the people. So people use language in the social context. They learn it, through the processes of social interactions. Now, so far this is clear that this is a reciprocal relationship of language and society and that they affect each other. But what are the kinds of problems that are related to this relationship? From the sociolinguistic perspectives, it becomes important when we study the relationship of language and society that we look into the communities which develop a standard language and the reactions of minority groups of, this area towards that standard language. As example, I would talk of Belgium, India, Pakistan, or Wales. When one language is given the status of a standard language, for example, in the case of Pakistan, when Urdu is given the status of national language, and by the way, most of the times the standard language is the national language of the country or of that state. So if in Pakistan Urdu is the national language, the kind of tension that exists between Urdu and the set of languages that we call the local languages or the provincial languages and the minority languages, etc. So sociolinguistics is concerned with, and it should be concerned with, the study of this relationship of society with language. Secondly, people who have to be educated to linguistic level where they can cope with the demands of the variety of social situations. When a certain language is standardized in a certain community, there are sociolinguistic demands for that state or country or society that then people are, let me use the word trained. They are trained in the use of that language, or they are given enough education in that language so that they can cope with all kind of formal and official situations that may emerge. Communication which exists between nations or groups using a different language is another area of consideration where there can be problems when it comes to the sociolinguistic perspective on the relationship of language and society, because there are many countries and nations around the world when they would come into interaction on any international platform with other nations, there would be no language that would be mutually understandable. So, this is an important aspect for sociolinguistics to address. Then, my dear students, there are problems that are caused by linguistic change in response to certain social factors. There are problems caused or solved by multilingualism and bilingualism. So, with the changes in the world and with the speedy change, in fact, at the current times, that is unprecedented as so far as in the history, there is the speed of multilingualism and of bilingualism has also increased. People are using more than one languages because they are coming in closer contacts, and thus, for those social interactions, they need more than one languages. Life is not it is no more, kind of in isolation, and people cannot survive in their own cocoons. They have to come out and to interact with the world, both in the physical sense of the existence as well as in terms of virtual interaction through social media. So in all this context, where bilingualism and multilingualism has solved these problems of interaction, it has also created certain issues of identity as well. So again, in terms of the study of language and society, this becomes a concern for studies in sociolinguistics. As far as the scope of sociolinguistics is concerned, the interaction of language and various sociologically definable variables such as social class, a specific particular situation, the nature of the addresser, the nature of the addressee, age, gender, etc. So, sociolinguistics has a very wide scope, and it can cover all these aspects of the social life of a society in relation to language, and can see how all these factors or any of these factors can have an influence on language choices. Well, my dear students, language can vary not only from one individual to the next, but also from one subsection of the society to another subsection of the society, from one family to another, from one village to another, from one region to another as well. So, there are multiple layers of this multiplicity, what I would call, and sociolinguistics, when it deals with the study of language and society, and when it looks at the impact of society on language, it deals with all these layers of interconnectivity and all these layers of diversity. People of different age, sex, social class, occupation, gender, people from different cultural groups who coexist simultaneously in a speech community, they show different kinds of variations in their language, and thus use it as these languages as their identity markers. And sociolinguistics deals with, how these social identity markers in the society are translated into language. Thus, language varies in geographical and social space both. Overall, what I would say is that the relationship between language and society is a complex one. It is a two-way process, yes, but as far as sociolinguistics is concerned, it takes the perspective where, from the perspective of the social aspect, it looks at how language is influenced, how language choices are made, and how they undergo certain changes over the times because of the social factors.